reality is, like Easter Sunday, Christmas Eve services are very well attended, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but our faith walk does not stop on December 26th, December 27th, January 1, whatever the date might be.
All right, welcome everyone to might be our 75th, it might be our 76th podcast, Renew Your Mind. With us today, we have Reverend John Naile. He's our visitation pastor today at the First United Methodist Church. And we're having a discussion on Advent and Christmas, liturgical calendar. And we left it off at our last podcast that we went through the whole liturgical calendar. And now we're after Christmas and going to ask or discuss the question, where do we go from here?
Well, and the reality is, like Easter Sunday, Christmas Eve services are very well attended, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But our faith walk does not stop on December 26th, December 27th, January 1, whatever the date might be. And our faith is we are to be educated. We are to be not eating baby food, spiritual baby food, the rest of our lives. We are to grow. One of the beauties of today, and there are a lot of things that are non-beauty out there, but one of the beauties is the great access we have to Christian literature, devotionals, self-help, study groups, which help us to take that next step in our faith. One of the things that I think challenges every pastor, every priest, every minister is the person who says, well, I'd like to go to a small group. I'd like to be part of a Bible study, but I don't know the Bible. I don't want to be asked a question. I don't want to feel like I don't know. And so as a pastor, we try so very hard not to do anything that will diminish and or embarrass. And tragically so, there have been incidences where people have been asked, and I've been a part of them on the receiving side, where someone else has been leading, and they've said, well, we're going to read Genesis 1. We're going to read the creation story. And Mary, you do Genesis 1:1. Fred, you do Genesis 1:2. Sally, you do 1:3. And by the time it gets to Rick, who's doing Genesis 1:10, he's already looking ahead, hoping that there's not some big word like Methuselah or Abimelech in there that he can't say. And maybe he doesn't read well. I've had young people, adults who have dyslexia. And so you don't want to do anything. And so that keeps them away from being fed to take that next step. And we are strongly encouraged not to stay where we are, whether it's Christmas Eve or Easter Sunday or Christmas Day. We are to be moved. And one of the ways we do that is by doing things. I was in a grocery store the other day, and I had come in one door, and I checked out, and I was walking, just about to go out, and I heard the bell ringing for the Salvation Army people. And I reached into my wallet and put $1 in the bucket. And that's doing something. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know who it's going to help, but it was, they can use this coinage that I'm putting in, or they can do that. So it's a stepping. And not that I had some euphoric feeling, but I felt better as having done so. And I do know people who have gone in one door where there's no bell ringer and gone out that door because they don't want to put $1 or $2 in the Salvation Army bucket, and that's sad. But it's the doing, and it reaps much more. This is what I did. Now, a lot of people look forward to this time of the year because they like to ring the bell for the Salvation Army, and the Salvation Army is always looking for men and women to be bell ringers. It always makes me smile when you see young people from the schools standing there on the weekend ringing the bell. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity, but we need to take that next step and move on from just the excitement of a Christmas Eve service.
Yeah, and I think it's a good time of year to thinking about those action items, because we're thinking about the next year coming up. We want to get some new goals in front of us, and it's a good time of year to start thinking about what can we do. Where are we at today, and what can we do? But each person's in a different path. So,
right.
Trying to think. Well, let's talk a little bit about the things that we can do. So,
one of the things that's really hurt us, and it's sad to say, we're coming up to the second anniversary of the COVID.
Yeah.
That has prohibited many people from physically doing things because they want to be very cautious. They maybe have had the shots, the booster, they wear the mask, but they really are keeping themselves away from public gatherings. I know the churches, doesn't matter what church you attend, have been definitely challenged in trying, and that turns into one of the wonderful things that YouTube, Instagram, videos, you have the opportunity to stay home and watch the worship service because maybe you're of a certain age, or you're cautious about being out in public or something like that because of the COVID virus. And so that becomes definitely a challenge. But there are things that people can do and should do. I said a few weeks ago in church when Paul asked me to preach that sending cards, taking the phone and calling someone, just thinking, I was just thinking about you. I was, I heard you're not feeling well. The prayer group has said, the prayer chain ministry has come and I see that you haven't been feeling well. Or maybe you go out to get your groceries and you go to the store and you see the card aisle. Gee, I'll send a thinking of you or a get well card to someone. These are ways that we can do something so that the recipient, and you may not even know this person, but they saw your name on the prayer list and they saw, gee, Sally Lou doesn't feel well. I'm going to send Sally Lou a card. And so you take time, purchase the card, put a stamp on it, and mail it. So a day or two later, Sally Lou gets this card in the mail, and it says, "Friends from the United Methodist Church are thinking of you," signed Mary Smith, or Fred Jones, whoever it might be. And it does a wonderful thing to the person who maybe is just not feeling well, or maybe is in a position of grief at that particular time. And this Christmas season, this Advent season is a challenging time for people who are experiencing loss and grief. And maybe this is the first Christmas that there will be an empty chair at the table and things like that. But someone is thinking and remembering them.
I also liked what you said about just picking up the phone and calling them, and you could text somebody as well. And just that thought when you're being thought about. Just yesterday I got a text from somebody and said, "Hey, I miss you." And it was, a coworker I hadn't seen in a long time, and put a smile right on your face, or on my face at least. What are some other actions that, that we can think about for the up and coming year? Oh gosh. trying to think. Maybe you have a skill or a talent, or maybe you're good. Maybe it's a time to reflect on what your skills and talents are and where you might be able to help out in some way. I'm kind of not quite sure where I'm going here, but maybe we can encourage other people to serve. Or anyway, any thoughts?
One of the strengths of this community is the food pantry that we have in town. And they have it because of COVID. They have a much tighter protocol to keep not only the person who's packaging the foodstuffs, but the person who's coming to receive the food gifts. There's a sense of keeping one away from the other so that there's not that engagement, and yet the food pantry has not closed down, hasn't stopped, and usually that's 1 or 2 hours, not every day, not every week. There's a variety of the churches in the community that take 1 day, 2 days, or maybe a whole week, and man it from like 12 till 2. There are some wonderful men and women who come early in the morning and they stock the shelves. The trucks come, they go around to some of the places picking up foodstuffs, and it's there. So the people that are working the food pantry, all they have to do is load the cart, so to speak. And there's a variety of people. I know when my wife and I have served, it's always heartening, in a way disheartening, when you see. I remember one time an older gentleman. I was working with a gentleman who was a World War Korean War veteran, and this Korean War veteran, they recognized the guy had an army hat on, so they started chit-chatting, and he was embarrassed to come to get food, and the other veteran I was working with said, "That's why we're here. We're here to give it to you, to offer it to you." And I thought, well, that's what we do. And here's a man, in his high 60s, probably for the first time, he's had to come for a handout. Now, we don't ask how they ended up. And then you'll have maybe a young family. You'll have a young man and woman come, and they need it, and maybe or a mother come in, and they've got a couple little toddlers, and you think, my gosh, at this age, and they've fallen on some difficult times for whatever reason. And we the food pantry staff never ask, how did you get here? Why are you here? That kind of thing. We're just gifted that we're able, this community, that's one thing. Or I know some people personally that will blow snow for the neighbor. This gentleman lives next door, and they should not be out there shoveling or trying to blow snow. They don't have a snow blower. And so when they clean their own walk, they'll go over to the other and make a path, or they'll do something for them. That's another opportunity. But as you said a few minutes ago, Dana, maybe call. I'm going to the grocery store. Is there anything that you need?
Yeah, that's a really good thought.
I've got to get something, because some people. And we're really fortunate that we have these grocery stores that you can call in your order and they will come and deliver it. Of course, you have to pay ahead of time via credit card, I assume, and they'll load it in your car. But maybe, I've got to go to Myers. I've got to go to Family Fare. I've got to go to Walmart. I've got to go to I'm going to the local grocery store. Is there anything you need? Yes. Could you get me a quart of milk or pound of butter or a loaf of bread or some luncheon meat or whatever, or something like that? And because they don't want to go out, and in defense of some of our older people, they really have to be cautious, because where do they walk? Where do they step? And
especially this time of year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only because of COVID, but because of weather conditions.
Exactly. Well, I think those are some great thoughts for actions, and that's what we need to keep in mind, is what can we do, not what's something that we can do to keep our faith walk continuing. I know a lot of people like to make up arguments about why they shouldn't do things. They say they're too shy, or they don't know how, they don't know what to do or how to do it. But I think the thing that maybe we should remember is that anyone can be taught how to do anything. And there's a lot of things to do behind the scenes too.
Right.
So, and you had touched on if you're new to the community or maybe new to the Christian faith, you have to do things to learn things. And I don't think we should be embarrassed by what we don't know.
Right.
So, well, I think that'll give us some good thoughts as to where do we go from here. In some more podcasts, or in some subsequent podcasts, we're going to talk about other ways. We're going to talk about people that do some behind the scenes activities. So if you're not the type of person that doesn't like to get up and speak in front of a group of people, there's so many different things you can do kind of behind the scenes. And, if you're too shy or things like that. So we're looking forward to having those podcasts in the future too. So, anything else you want to add?
Well, as you alluded to earlier with the telephone, I was asked to come back on as minister of visitation, and when COVID was in its epiphany, it's really at its height, I was not visiting people, but I would sit at home and I'd probably call half a dozen people and we wouldn't talk very long, maybe a minute or two. Just, I was thinking about you. I thought about, or I drove by your house or something like that. So, and, even people that are shy can just say, I just, for some reason you came to mind. And I like to believe that there are those God moments in time that God gives you. And as we said in an earlier podcast, when Jesus was ascended to heaven and committed the Holy Spirit on that day we call Pentecost, he said, I will send you the advocate, I will send you the comforter. Well, that Spirit has not evaporated. It still speaks to us. And the more we stretch ourselves, the stronger we become spiritually. If we don't use our muscles, they atrophy, and the same thing spiritually. We don't want that. We have that food that will feed us, and we are involved with a living God who very much, and at this wonderful time of the year, I love the old classic hymns of the faith, but one of the ones is Emmanuel, God with us. Well, that doesn't stop on December 26th. God is still with us, and we need to constantly be reminded and reflect that God is with me. And if we open ourselves to hear, he will speak. Now, maybe not audibly like we all want, but just that nudge to say, this is what I need to be doing. And why did this person come to mind, and pick up the phone and call, or like you said, gee, I have a card in my little box. I think I'll thinking of you card. And again, we have stores in town that are very economical. You can get two cards for under $1 and then buy a stamp. So for $55 or maybe $1, you can send a card, and who knows the wonderful good that it does.
Yeah, and I I like what you mentioned. We might have those nudges on our heart, and we don't oftentimes take that action to acknowledge whoever that person is that we're thinking of. But if we just take a moment to listen to that and then to actually do it,
right?
What a powerful, experience we could have in someone else's life. So, all right, well, I would also like to put it out to our listeners. If you are thinking about things, where do I go from here? And you want to hear more discussion on different topics or things that we can discuss on the podcast, please make sure to let us know. We're always looking for new topics. And we gave you a little bit of a segue into, we're going to delve into some behind the scenes folks in our church that do things, a lot of good things for a lot of people and they don't often get acknowledged for that. So thank you, everybody. Again, we're with the First United Methodist Church We're located at 215 South Center Street in Gaylord, Michigan. We have a traditional service on Sunday at 9 a.m. and a contemporary at 10:45 a.m. We also live stream on Facebook and YouTube in case you can't make it in person. We have a website that has all this information and different articles, and you can view the sermons online and everything like that. So thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you next time.